And welcome back to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly episode and feed for movies, TV, music, and video games, not necessarily in that order.
Indeed.
My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us on this fine July afternoon. It is the 18th of July, 2023. This is episode, did we do it? 893, right?
Yes.
893. So thank you for joining us. And yeah, like he said, we've got lots to talk about all of those things that you mentioned, including, some juicy stuff about strikes and Jason Aldean. Oh yeah, we have a lot to go into.
I know, like we ended last episode on the 392.
392.
Yeah. So we ended last episode like on the heels of a actor strike with Wednesday approaching, but we'll get to that because we don't start with TV and movies. No. We'll get there because we always start with the music section. We start the music section with the Billboard, and we start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And your number one song in the land is Last Night by Morgan Wallen.
Yeah.
Going in at 2, Fast Car by Luke Combs, which means country is now on the rise with your top 2.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Let's see here. We also
Nope.
At 3, we have Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo. Coming in at 4, Calm Down by Rima and Selena Gomez. And rounding out your top 5, I Can See You, Taylor's version, From the Vault by Taylor Swift.
All right, now that we have the technical issues out of the way, sorry about that, folks.
It's because I touched the mic. Never touch the hot mic.
Never touch it. Don't do it. But yeah, most notable things about this Hot 100 we'll actually talk about in the first news story. So, but otherwise, yeah, this is like you said, country's back at the top. You see Last Night moving back up to number 1, and Fast Car edging up closer to number 1 at number 2. It had been kind of stuck in number 3, purgatory in the middle of the top 5 there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then I Can See You, a vault track from Speak Now, making it into the top 5. Like I said, we'll talk about that more in a moment.
Yes, but we have to talk about the Billboard 200, your albums chart, where it's a Taylor sandwich. Yes. And we start with Speak Now, Taylor's version by Taylor Swift at your number 1 spot.
Mm-hmm.
As we called, because debut Taylor's version, everyone listened to it.
And has to.
If you want to hear our thoughts on it, you can listen to last week's episode.
Yep.
At number 2, One Thing at a Time by Morgan Wallen. Coming in at 3, Pink Tape by Lil Uzi Vert. At 4, Genesis by Peso Pluma. And rounding out your top 5 and completing the Taylor sandwich, Midnights by Taylor Swift.
If Taylor Swift was a sandwich, what kind of sandwich would she be?
A mayonnaise-inspired beef brisket sandwich. A little bit of country, a little bit of pop.
Okay, I'm not sure where the pop is coming from. I'll meet you.
It's the mayonnaise and like Dijon.
What I'll say is, no, how about this? The brisket, keep the brisket. It's a panini and it's an aioli. So that, but with a little bit of spice, so that way you get that pop.
Well, isn't aioli just mayonnaise?
It's fancy mayonnaise. Fancy it mayonnaise. Up a little bit.
It's
Mayonnaise. Fancy mayonnaise. Anyways, there you go. Taylor sandwich. We invented it here.
It's a hot press. And speaking of things hot off the presses, we have new releases. Starting with Outside Problems by Andrew Bird. I wouldn't know anything about Outside Problems.
No, we're inside.
Yes, we are inside. Next up is The Ballad of Darren by Blur. Yes, that Blur from famous of song number 2.
Yeah, song 2. Woohoo.
We also have Starcatcher by Greta Van Fleet. Welsh Pool Frillies by Guided by Voices. All Who Can't Hear Must Feel by Jabuki Young White. There's also 1988 by Laurie McKenna.
It's a prequel.
1989.
Damn it. Same joke. Anyways.
There's also Find a Way Home by Mixpix.
I believe it's MXPX.
Mixpix.
Mixpix, sure.
MXPX.
Make it sound like it's an art program for kids for the Mac.
Mixpix. or it's more like a beatbox. Mixpix. There's also Mountains by Nils Lofgren. And lastly, Love's Holiday by Oxbow.
Yep.
All right. As you alluded to and kind of wanted to talk about, Taylor Swift in the news because she is once again setting more records.
It's what she does.
Yep. Taylor Swift commands the Hot 100 with all 22 songs from her latest album, Speak Now, Taylor's version, occupying spots on the singles chart. Impressively, this means 3 singles from 3 different Taylor Swift albums are in the top 10 this week. The others being I Can See You, Taylor's version, From the Vault. A new release from Speak Now leads the pack at number 5, as we mentioned, which joins Cruel Summer from Lover at number 9, and Karma from Midnights at number 10.
So, yeah, when you think about it, it's kind of absurd. Like, Lover came out in 2019. So, like, the span of time here is kind of wild.
Well, it is a cruel summer for most people.
Yeah, the heat waves. I mean, we're not a weather podcast, but we don't need to tell you. Probably where you are, it is very hot. Unless you're like an Australian listener and it's like winter or something. But hey, if you're an Australian listener, if you're an Australian listener, hey, email us. Say hi.
Hey. But Taylor Swift is setting some high benchmarks with the release of Speak Now, Taylor's version album.
So we talked about the singles. Let's talk about albums.
Yes, because not only did it debut at number 1 with the biggest numbers of the year so far for any release, but it is one of 4 albums she now has in the top 10 of the albums chart. According to Billboard, that's the first time a woman has done that in the entire 6-decade history of there being an albums chart. And she's one of 3 artists to ever accomplish said feat.
It's pretty wild, but good for Taylor. I mean, no one's surprised here, really.
Like, I mean, we did mention that it was a Taylor sandwich in the top 200. So in the next 5, you got 2 other Taylor albums in there.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So can you guess which 4 it is? We already have 3 of them.
You mean Speak Now,
so
Lover?
Well, actually, is it Lover? I would bet it's probably Speak Now, Taylor's version, Midnights. Red, Taylor's version, and Fearless, Taylor's version. If I had to guess, those being the 4 most recent releases.
You didn't look it up?
No, I didn't. It's my guess.
That's your guess? Because it is Taylor's version, and people are just running Taylor's version in their feeds.
Well, also they're the most recent releases. So, like, I think that if Lover and Lover, Folklore, and Evermore are there, they're further down.
Okay,
I'm guessing. Anyways,
you mentioned Jason Aldean a little bit there.
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, CMT has confirmed that after initially airing Jason Aldean's highly controversial music video for Try That in a Small Town, the network pulled the contentious clip from the air on Monday, even before the furor over the tune grew even greater on Tuesday. CMT spokesperson had no further comment on the video being yanked. Reps for Aldean's label, BBR Music Group, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. it was Billboard who was first to report the video being removed by the network. Meanwhile, Aldean took to his social media on Tuesday afternoon to defend the song from its many critics, taking a much softer tone in his messaging than he does in the hostile single itself. Or a video that projects images of demonstrators onto a courthouse that was the site of a famous lynching.
All right, so let's back up a moment here because there's actually I have questions. So you're more into the country scene than I am. Were you aware of "Try That in a Small Town" prior to today?
I was aware of the song, not of the music
Right.
video.
I meant the song in general.
Yes.
So when did he put this single out?
Uh, earlier this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it on his last record?
I want to say it was.
Because I had not heard of it existing until this morning. Christy saw some talk on Twitter about it, and she read me some of the lyrics, and I was baffled by it. And so, yeah, when I saw this, I was like, okay, so this is not just us. This is a recent thing, but I figured maybe you might have more insight on the single. It seems recent.
This recent? I think of a different song. Put that in a country song.
I don't. You might be thinking of a different song.
Try that in a small town. I don't know. Small towns in music in country songs is very common.
But you might want to look at the
it
lyrics
is,
to this
yeah,
one.
because the album itself is "Try That in a Small Town."
Okay,
well, so this is a new song.
So maybe it was the video hitting was the catalyst for for people to pick up on what's going on. But somehow this made an impact this week. I understand that a lot of country music comes from this perspective, and I understand Jason Aldean is a guy who has been, I don't know, on a certain side of the argument. I mean, you can look back at when we talked about his was it him and his wife who had the Twitter argument with who was that?
Let's see here. This was earlier this year in May.
Yeah.
The song came out in May earlier this year.
Okay. So not that long ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, Jason Aldean has kind of established himself now as kind of a conservative spokesperson, it seems, in country music. So it shouldn't be super surprising. However, if you look at the lyrics of this song, I'm just gonna say this sounds like a threat. This sounds like a threat, Jason Aldean. Are you threatening people, Jason Aldean? I don't love it. I don't love the perspective. Anyway, so it's not surprising to me at all that a video for the song also has like some pretty loaded imagery. Good on CMT for pulling it, but I'm just hoping they're doing it for the right reasons. Regardless, yeah, it's disappointing to see something like this still, in 2023. Like, it just feels very gatekeepy and very like hostile is the right word. I think that it's the word that the Billboard story uses as well.
Are you referring to the line, "Got a gun my granddad gave me. They say one day they're gonna round up"?
It's like, what are you talking about? No one is rounding up your gun, Jason Aldean. That's not going to happen. It's just it like reiterates talking points that are just not true, that have not been true ever, and it creates just such a like the same old picture of like conservative gun culture that we've just heard repeated over and over and over and over again. And it's like it reminds me so much of having every conversation I've had in my life, which is like somebody being like, oh well, I don't go to the city because like I'm just uncomfortable there or something like that. Like, oh, you never see me in Los Angeles. Like, it's too dangerous. It's like, all right, we've just had these conversations so many times. I don't know. I mean, in a way, though, I do feel vindicated a bit because I've never liked Jason Aldean. So at least I feel okay with that. Right. It looks like you've been doing some research. What have you been
Oh,
doing?
I'm just reading up on the genius.com
Oh, the annotations, I bet, are
annotations. Yes.
fascinating.
Yes.
Really. All right.
I mean,
What are your thoughts about this?
uh it sounds like I mean, it's very conservative of
Yeah.
looking for a fight or wanting to pick a fight, saying, don't just the libertarian motto, don't tread on me.
Yeah. I
But
don't
then
know.
there's
So
also the who is they that you think is treading on you?
right. It's
And if you think it's the government, why are you shooting it in front of your music video in front of a courthouse, which is literally the government?
so yeah, I have not watched the video. I was planning on it, but I had a sandwich where I had a different a
A
call, and
Taylor
then
sandwich. Yeah.
yes, I had my Taylor sandwich. I was eating it. No, and then I had to do some work, so I didn't actually have the time. I was going to try to watch the video before we recorded. But yeah, from what I've heard described, it's a doozy. So yeah, again, good on CMT, I guess, for pulling it. But if this thing has been in the ether for a while now, I guess it's already too late. I just wouldn't be surprised if this somehow rockets into the top 5 by all those Morgan Wallen fans who want to prove something. You
Wait,
know,
we this can get Morgan Wallen out of the top 5?
no. I mean, it would coexist with it. They would they would make a playlist that's just Morgan Wallen last night, then try this in a small town, just like
And
back
then
to back to
Fast
back to
Car,
back, and
and
fast car
Fast
in the
Car, and
middle.
it's all
Yeah,
three.
yeah.
Let's see here. Okay, so from Genius, one of the lines from Genius annotation reads,
Uh-huh.
here, Aldean may refer to the Good Old Boys Roundup, a whites only law enforcement held annually in southern Tennessee, not far from the courthouse lynching site where the promotional video was shot.
Oh no, it's worse than I thought.
Oh, it is very worse than you thought.
Okay, we need to move on.
Anyways, did you listen to anything?
No, no, I did not.
I listened to more Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Well, Metro Boomin is happy with that, I'm sure.
I'm sure he is.
And
And
if
he keeps telling me into my
yes,
ears, Metro!
yeah, and I'm sure as he's reminded you many times, if Metro don't like you, well, you know the rest. All right, let's move on.
Yes, let's go to video games then, huh? It's a little bit pick me up because we got a
Please.
big release this week.
Yes, we do.
Yes. But we're gonna start with Might and Magic: Clash of Heroes Definitive Edition for the PS4, Switch, and PC. There's also Nobunaga's Ambition: Awakening
Hey, I thought you usually keep the big releases until the end of the list.
for the PS4, Switch, and PC.
No, Nobunaga's Ambition is a long-standing Japanese Japanese history themed strategy game. I never played one.
Well, you can begin here with Awakening.
Sure.
There's also Viewfinder for the PS5 and PC. This is the puzzle game, much like
Right.
what's it? Is it Stanley's Parable? No.
It's kind of like Stanley Parable. It's a first person thing, but you're using pictures.
Yes, it's the
Yeah.
first perspective in
Yeah.
taking
Where
pictures.
it's like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you
It's hard
input
to
a picture
describe.
into the landscape, and then
Yeah.
you can move around into it and through it across puzzles.
Yeah. Look up a trailer. It's pretty cool of
It is.
concept. Yeah.
I kind of wish this was on PS Extra as a game.
God forbid you spend money on it.
I know, God forbid I spend the $30 for it.
Yeah, God forbid.
That's because your wide release is Oaken for everything.
Yeah.
If you got it, you can play it. Oaken.
Okay.
And then there's just this small game on the Switch coming out called Pikmin 4.
Yes, the fourth Pikmin is finally here.
Yes, Night Pikmin are here.
Working on my night Pikmin. But yeah, so if you've always wanted to play a Pikmin game where you can be at night, this is your opportunity. So there you go.
All right. But while that might be the big release, it was not the big news because
yes,
it happened.
We're still here. We're still here after last week.
Yes. Microsoft and Activision Blizzard King are reportedly negotiating an extension to to their existing merger agreement, which expires today.
Right. If
As
they
of
were
this
going,
recording.
yeah, if they were going to merge on time, it would have happened today. And so thus it did not. So what did happen?
So after the July 18th deadline, today, as of this recording, both companies have the right to walk away from the $69 billion deal.
Nice.
Although Microsoft will have to pay Activision a $3 billion termination fee if it falls through. A Reuters source claimed Microsoft has been pushing for a contract extension to ward off potential interest in Activision from other suitors, Sony, and to ensure the Call of Duty maker doesn't have a change of heart before the deal can be completed. Go ahead.
Reuters.
Reuters.
Sorry, I immediately imagine a tree-themed Hooters equivalent.
Reuters.
Reuters.
Or like Roto Reuters.
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 Anyways,
amending the contract opens the possibility of changes to the financial terms of the deal, which Activision could seek to exploit. Microsoft was recently cleared to acquire Activision in the US after winning a court battle with the antitrust regulator, the FTC, which we talked about last week. However, the company has yet to seal the approval of the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, the CMAs, which remains the last major roadblock to the deal closing. So last week, the CMA extended the deadline for its final decision on the deal from today, July 18th, until August 29th, so that it could consider a fresh proposal from Microsoft.
So one, this answers your question from last week about the CMA. So what they did was they just extended as well. They were basically like, okay, we'll wait, see what the FTC does, and then we'll extend our deal. So that way we'll be ready no matter what they decide. Ended up being the right call because now Activision and Microsoft also have extended their talks so that way they can meet the CMA requirement. So no, it does not mean, so no longer this week is no longer the week where it happens. Like we're shoving that off to the future. Now they go back to the table, they renegotiate it, and they decide whether Activision will still accept the original 69 billion offer if Activision wants to barter for more. And then once everything's tied up into a tight little package that both parties agree on, then they go back to the CMA and basically say, hey, okay, so this is our new deal. What do you guys think of now? And if they want to have a problem again, then we're in this for at least until the 29th. But if they say, cool, they answered all our questions and now we're good, that's when this happens.
Or Activision Blizzard could walk away from the deal and thank Microsoft for their $3 billion termination fee.
Right, that could happen. I'm going to say no. I'm going to rule that one out. And the reason why I rule that one out is because they're too deep into this. At this point, it has to happen.
I don't know. If I could gain an easy $3 billion for my company just by walking away from a deal.
It's not, it doesn't, they have problems that they need to solve.
And $3 billion can solve a lot of problems.
Not the problems that they have. Activision Blizzard has a hearts and minds problem, and they have a company toxicity problem. Those are things that money can't solve right away. So they
can buy a lot of golden parachutes.
Yeah, but Bobby Kotick said he's staying no matter what. Like if the deal doesn't go through, the only possible way he does get his golden parachute and leaves is if the deal does go through. Then he's bailing. So there's so little weird little bits and pieces here, but I'm gonna say how I think that this is gonna roll is that they're gonna make a new deal. Like they'll come to the CMA. I'm pretty sure at this point the CMA is just like, all right, fine. Then it happens. It's just it's not happening right away.
We'll see. I mean, there's nothing for us to do but wait. question is, how long do they wait? Because if the
Yeah.
CMAs give the deadline until August 29th, you're talking
Right.
about a whole nother, what is this,
Mm,
4,
Yeah,
5, 6 weeks?
6 weeks. So
Yeah, of
yeah,
waiting.
another month. But it'll definitely happen by then. So we will see.
All right. Well, let's go from there to Blast from the Past, shall we?
Yeah.
With Gex. Also, if you're on here and you're listening to us and you remember what Gex is before I start explaining it, please drop us a line at meetaboutpodcast@gmail.com.
Do you ever
And
play
just
any
put in
of
the
the
subject line Gex
Gex?
with like
Yeah.
3 exclamation points.
Gex. Did you ever play a Gex game?
Yes, I played Gex 2.
I also played only Gex 2. All right. So we're on the same wavelength here.
Spy Lizard is spying. So a limited run game. So wait, no. The company
Yes.
Limited Run Games has announced Gex Trilogy for modern consoles and PC. Being developed by Crystal Dynamics, the platform game series starring an anthropomorphic gecko called Gex, comprised of 3 releases: 1995's Gex, 1998's Gex Enter the Gecko, and 1999's Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko. The games are being brought to Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S, as well as Steam, because why not? Using Limited Run Games' Carbon Engine, a development tool that helps create emulation-based ports of classic games for modern hardware. So yeah, the return of Gex.
So there's some questions about bringing Gex back that we should address here. Number one question is, okay, so are they doing anything with this re-release? And I hesitate to say yes. The reason why I say that is because the wording in this PR blast is that they're just using the Carbon engine to re-release these games. That sounds to me that this is going to be an up-res, maybe just a cleanup. This is not going to be a complete remaster of the Gex trilogy. Second thing is you can't have Gex without the voice of Dana Gold. Is Dana Gold coming back? And that remains unknown. Although some Twitter sleuth did notice Dana Gold did retweet this announcement. Makes you think. So, but even though he did, though, is would he re-record all of his dialogue? Or would they use the awful awful quality old clips that were used in the original PlayStation, Saturn, and Nintendo 64 releases? I guess we'll find out.
I could see him taking the payday of, yeah, I'll record those lines.
Yeah.
But I could also be them saying, we'll give you $5,000.
Yeah.
And we'll just use what we have and kind of clean it up with AI, AR distortion.
Yeah, who knows? I don't, maybe, but the third thing is I haven't played those games in a while. I wonder if all of those jokes hold up. I don't even remember. So I had the displeasure of playing the Nintendo 64 version of Enter the Gecko, which apparently had significantly fewer voice clips than the PlayStation versions did. So there's probably jokes from that game that I've never heard. So it wasn't just him talking about, I don't even remember the jokes at this point, but just talking about the same old creaky references over and over and over again. They're going to be extra creaky now. If you thought him referencing something from the 70s was old hat in 1998, I can't imagine what it sounds like now.
Well, even the title Enter the Gecko is a
Right.
really old reference of Enter the Dragon.
Yeah, no, the games were already an artifact of its time. I mean, you were collecting remote controls and all of the levels were based on television shows. No one's gonna get it. Who's this for? Us, I guess.
Retro archive gaming.
Speedrunners.
Is
there a Gex speedrunning community? I bet there is.
There's always a speedrunning community.
Anyways, well, that's enough about Gex. But yeah, it's just weird to see Gex come back. I've
It
never
is.
actually played Gex 1 or 3 though, so that would be interesting. Gex 1 is like a side-scrolling platformer, which is extra
Yeah,
weird.
that
Yeah.
is weird.
Yeah, they went 3D for 2. So we'll see, I guess.
We'll see. Did you play anything though?
I finished the Diablo 4 campaign.
Whoa,
Finally.
like officially for one character?
Yes, for one character. And the cool thing is that meant you get to skip the campaign for all other future characters. So
Ooh.
I don't have to do those things again. Oh my god, it was a slog. It was fun, but it was a slog, and I'm happy to be over it. So now my goal is before the season 1 stuff on Thursday. I need to find all the waypoints. I need to activate all the waypoints and basically have all the map completed, so that way I
All
can
the fast
bounce
travel
between.
map, yeah.
Yeah, so I can bounce between things in the new season. So that is my goal tonight. So that'll be
Hey,
fun.
I am officially toward in the last boss fight, I think, or one of the last boss fights for Final Fantasy 16.
Okay.
After I wouldn't finish it, like I paused like right before entering it because time. It was
Yeah.
like 11 o'clock. I was like, okay, I don't want to do another hour boss fight here.
I'm done.
I'm
I
done.
can't.
Uh, so I got that, and then I'll get the last icon available for my power-ups, and then just cruise right into the final game mode
Cool.
before entering into New Game Plus.
Nice.
Such a good game. I'm having
Yeah.
a lot of fun with it. The story is both insane and also deep and just ever so connecting.
Well, good.
It's great.
Glad you're loving it.
Oh, loving
I
it.
think we might know each other's front runners for game of the year right now. I think we have maybe an inkling of what those will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until Spider-Man comes.
Until Spider-Man comes. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Or WarioWare.
Yes. Oh, but so today, PS Extra released its new games. If you're subscribed to PS Extra, one of them being 2021's Game of the Year, It Takes Two.
Oh no.
So if you've never played It Takes Two, it's available.
I'm out. No.
No?
No. I'd rather go to actual couples therapy. Thank you very much. Anyway. Let's move on.
All right. Otherwise, I think
Into
like bass fishing is now available too. Oh no,
oh, bass
that was
fishing.
it. Fast and the Furious game.
Oh no, don't play that. It's terrible.
The Fast and the Furious recharged
Yeah,
or whatever.
I heard it's so bad. Don't even do it.
No,
That's my
don't
warning.
experience. Just don't experience the torture.
If you come back next week and you say you've played this Fast and Furious game, I will be so disappointed in you. You could have been spending that time doing so many other things.
Like playing It Takes Two.
Oh god. How about either
Lesser
of
of two
games?
evils. Come on.
I don't know, man. Like I don't think It Takes Two is a good game, but I think that the Fast and Furious game actually might eat partial like pieces of your soul. So I would avoid that one first. All right, let's move on into the second half of the show where we talk about television. And we always start the television section with the sports corner. This week in sports, unfortunately for Aaron Rodgers, the New York Jets have been selected for the next series of Hard Knocks.
Well, also, the Jets didn't want it either.
No.
Apparently, they told the NFL that they didn't want it, so they're giving HBO very, very extremely limited access.
And you thought they had already cut off a bunch of access for Hard Knocks. Just imagine what this season is going to look like. So yeah, that'll be fun. No, it won't be. No, it won't
well,
be
I don't know. The NFL is basically forcing them to do this, but they're doing it on the we're going to abide by the minimum guidelines required to do this.
Yeah.
So expect a lot of montages.
But if you're not Aaron Rodgers and you're new to the league, well, the good news is that NFL training camp has begun for the rookies.
Yep. 8 teams reported today. The rest reporting within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, because we're like a month out.
Training camp begins.
Yeah.
For some teams, training camp is available and open to the public. So check your local professional football team to see if they are training near you.
Check it
And I
out.
say training near you because the Cowboys, most famously, do not train in the heat of Texas and instead go up to, I think it's Oxnard in California to train.
Hey, I would too if I was them.
If you were Jerry Jones and you had the option of where you want your team to train, I would choose California coast as well.
Yeah. Not 120-degree weather. No, thank you. Next up, the different kind of football, the soccer kind of football. FIFA, the Women's World Cup is back and will begin Thursday in Australia and New Zealand.
Yep, it begins Thursday. That's when kickoff happens. U.S. women's national team's first game will be on Friday. So good luck to them.
Yeah.
You guys just won the ESPY, so we'll be watching.
Yeah, the world will be watching that American women's team because they're always great. And
they're always great.
Excited to see them win again. Fingers crossed. Next up, as most people following baseball know, the trade deadline is coming up for the MLB on August 1st. So right now,
it's your 2-week warning.
Yes, this is your 2-week warning. So we already have rumors swirling like a hurricane all over the place about all sorts of different names, mostly Shohei Ohtani, but all sorts of other names too. So will they or won't they is kind of the burning question. All right, 2 weeks out. What's your call? Do they trade Shohei Ohtani?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Coming in spicy.
Especially since they lost to Houston and they barely squeaked by the Yankees, who themselves are on a downturn right now.
Yeah.
So these 2 games coming out of the All-Star break between Houston and New York were kind of pivotal moments, especially when you had Shohei pitching this past Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost. And the only way they won was dramatic fashion overtime.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that there are 2 more weeks because I feel like, and I hate to do this because I feel like the Angels have had so many of these series in this season, which is I want to so badly just say, oh, well, those games were so close, they were really just flukes. But how many flukes have to add up before you realize that there's a pattern? And
welcome to being an Angels fan for the past 7 years.
Yeah, I know. We just have such a pattern of flukes now.
It's not a fluke when you have a 2-run lead and you know somehow they're going to blow it.
These 2 1-run leads just disappear, fall through our fingers. Before you know it, we lose by 1 run. And it's frustrating. And so, I don't blame you. And I think that, I probably will agree with you here. I do think that is probably ultimately in the team's best interest to trade him and get 2 all-star level talents from another team, because that is what Shohei Ohtani is worth. He is worth a starting pitcher and a position player. Period. There's no way you can get anything less, right? No, he's worth both of those things. And so who does it? What do you think? Then the follow-up question, what team shells it out?
Well, what team goes all in and says, we'll pay you for this year, the remainder of this season, and just allows him to be a free agent at the end of the year. Just say, we'll buy out your current contract for this year so you can be on a championship team like the Dodgers or the Astros.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Yankees. And be on a championship team.
Yeah.
But then give them the opportunity to be a free agency after the year ends.
Yeah, I've always
that might be more of what he might do.
Yeah.
But there's also the clause of the Angels have to accept a deal for them to do that. So
yeah. The funniest thing in the world would be is if the Dodgers make the deal. He's a Dodger for the rest of the season. He becomes a free agent, and then the Angels get him back.
Yep.
That would be funny.
The Angels take the Dodgers' money and players and then use it to buy Ohtani right back.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, I didn't mention this, but the extra funny part would be the Dodgers don't somehow don't make the World Series either. That'd be pretty funny. And
That'd be brutal.
yeah, and it's just the Braves, and it's the Braves and the Astros again. That would be funny. No, who am I kidding? It's gonna be the Rangers.
Oh no, don't put that voodoo out there.
I don't know. Braves Rangers seems possible. Just saying, seems possible.
All right, seems possible.
All right. So that's enough baseball talk. But yeah, once we get closer to the trade deadline and after, of course, we have plenty to talk about in that department. Moving on in the world of sports, it's WNBA All-Star Weekend in Las Vegas. So
that was this past weekend. Team Breanna Stewart dominated with a 143-point performance to 127 to Team Wilson. But that was not the highlight of this weekend, because that was Brianna Ionescu.
Oh, yeah.
With the 3-point contest and dominating the 3-point contest.
Nice.
Hitting, what was it, like 28 out of 30 shots.
Damn.
With a 20-shot run in a row of 3-pointers.
It's impressive.
It's very impressive. There's a reason she was the top pick.
Yeah.
There's a reason she was the top college athlete. But yeah, just showcasing, as you do, in a skills competition of just knocking down 3 after 3 after 3 like a machine and not breaking a sweat. Congratulations. Look out for that name to just start dominating your news feeds, start dominating the talk. Brianna Ionescu.
Cool. Awesome. Gotta show off those skills.
But that wasn't the only newcomer to dominate.
No. Tell me about Wimbledon.
So we talk a lot about the Joker, Novak Djokovic, and how dominant he's been. Grand Slams. He's recently hit his 23rd Grand Slam, making him the most decorated tennis player ever. Only for him to come to Wimbledon and lose. So there's a reason he was ranked number 2 going into Wimbledon this year. That's because there is indeed a newcomer on the scene at the number 1 slot named Carlos Alcaraz.
Oh.
If you want to know how new he is, I'd say you could buy him a beer, but you literally can't.
Oh, no.
He's a 20-year-old phenom, and this is his first major win. Carlos Alcaraz, ranked number 1 in the world going into the tournament, and beat Novak Djokovic.
Okay. Well.
So if you're going to beat the best and proving you're the number 1 ranking here, no better stage to do it than Wimbledon itself. Also, no other place to make your name in the women's Wimbledon, as unranked player Marketa Vondrousova beat number 6 ranked player Ons Jabeur.
Wow. Okay. So how does that even work? How does that happen if somebody completely unranked?
Well, they play in the Open before it to qualify.
Oh, okay. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're just not ranked in the world tennis bracket.
An unknown.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, you have, essentially 2 unknowns to the world.
Yeah.
Being your Wimbledon champions for 2023.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So there you go. Some fresh blood in the tennis world.
Tennis is on a shift.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. You love it. You love to see it.
Love to see it.
Anything in sports before we move on?
Summer League is still happening. Fantasy football's right around the corner. And we are 2.5 weeks away from the NFL Hall of Fame game. Other than that, NASCAR will start up again because summer break. You don't race in hot heat.
No, you don't. That's not a good idea for anyone involved. All right. Well, that'll do it then for the sports corner. Let's move on into some television news. And boy, howdy, was there some television news this week.
This is the highs of highs and the lows of lows.
So the Emmy nominations came out this week. And yes, with the background of the industry right now being strikes, which we'll talk about a little bit more in the next story, it was a little weird. The tone of the nominations was a little weird. However, the Emmys are still the Emmys. We're still going to do it. The presentation might be a little different than usual this year, but it's happening, and we have nominations. HBO is still on top, is your big nomination leader with the final season of Succession with 27 nods, the freshman season of The Last of Us with 24 nods, and the return of The White Lotus with 23. Meanwhile,
which moved out of the limited series into the drama category.
Right. So, meanwhile, over in comedy, HBO is not the leader there, as you have Apple TV Plus's Ted Lasso returning with a new high of 21 nominations, just one shy of the record in that category set by 30 Rock back in 2009. In the drama race, besides the shows we mentioned, we also see Andor, Better Call Saul, The Crown, House of the Dragon, and Yellow Jackets are alongside Succession and The White Lotus. The comedy category includes Abbott Elementary, Barry, The Bear, which I didn't realize was a comedy until these nominations came out.
Yeah, they listed as a comedy.
Jury Duty, which I feel like we're all figuring out existed this week.
That's the freebie show.
I know, right? The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Only Murders in the Building, Ted Lasso, and Wednesday,
which apparently is a comedy.
I feel like that's the
dark comedy.
That's the Netflix has to be here in some form entry in that category. And that's all they had this year. The limited series category includes Beef, Dahmer, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, Daisy Jones and the Six, Fleischman is in Trouble, and Obi-Wan Kenobi for some reason. The 75th Primetime Emmy Awards will be held September 18th at the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles. Now, is that going to still be the Microsoft Theater? Because I thought they were rebranding that whole business Peacock stuff. Or is that just LA
Live?
Is that just LA Live?
Is that what you're thinking of? That's just LA Live is going to be rebranded?
Yeah.
Yes. I haven't heard anything about Microsoft Theater specifically.
Okay. I didn't know if it was a blanket Microsoft deal just expired or something.
Oh. Other notes in these nominations is the Best Supporting Actor in a Drama Series, where it is literally White Lotus versus Succession.
Yes.
As all 8 nominations come from either of those two shows.
Yeah. So no matter what happens, your big winners will be in Succession or White Lotus.
But HBO, essentially, yeah.
Yeah, but honestly, though, I'm not sure about this year's slate. I think drama, you might see a Last of Us upset in some of the ones that Succession is expected to win. Mm-hmm. It's fresh, it's new. I think it made a cultural impact when it was out. And I think a lot of Emmy voters will remember this, probably more so than what ended up happening to Succession.
Right.
On the comedy side, I really hope that Ted Lasso's reign is over, because I'm sure that we weren't the only ones disappointed by that final season. I'm shocked by the amount of nominations here. But then again, they like to vote for things they remember, and they remember Ted Lasso.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think it's really between Abbott Elementary and The Bear this year.
The Bear is very easy to get behind because, again, it's fresh, it's recent. FX is has had a little bit of a break from being Emmy favorites. I think their last big Emmy streak was all those wins for Fargo. And so it's been a while for them.
Don't forget, this is The Bear season 1, not the season that just aired.
Yeah, I know. So like it's got some future too to it, which is nice. I would love for my personal favorite in the category, Abbott Elementary, to take it, but I just feel like if they're gonna do it, it's probably The Bear, if it's not just Ted Lasso again. Limited series, I'm a little more confused by. I don't think anything really sticks out. I'm just gonna go with maybe it's between Beef and Fleischman is in Trouble.
Fleischman is in Trouble is the FX show, so You can watch that on FX and
They
Hulu.
do traditionally do well in the limited series category, thanks to the American Horror Story and Crime Story series. So maybe.
But don't be surprised if Dahmer, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, creating that into the anthology that is Monster.
Gross.
Because that's what they want to do, because they can't make a season 2 out of it.
Hope not. Acting wise, I could see another win for Jennifer Coolidge here. I could see Pedro Pascal for The Last of Us. I think that's a slam dunk.
Yep. I mean, that is, unless what's his name? Where's my lead actors here? Well, this is actor in a category comedy. I'll get there.
We'll get there. Yeah, I could see. I'm hoping for a little bit of a mix this year instead of just the same people winning. But you can only hope.
Oh, Brian Cox, that's what I'm thinking of.
Brian Cox, yeah, it's possible
because he was the leader of Succession before being
spoilered
by Jeremy Strong.
Spoiler.
Yes, spoiler.
All right, let's stop spoiling Succession. Let's move on. So those are the Emmys, but of course, like I said, there's a cloud around Hollywood at the moment because
when they did the nominations, they did not announce the writers.
Well, that's because the writers are on strike, and we knew that. But it's also notable that we also knew that there was another shoe about to drop involving the actors, and sure enough, that shoe dropped mere hours after we finished recording last week's podcast. Yes, the actors are on strike. SAG-AFTRA called the history-making strike last week. The AMPTP, which bargains on behalf of major studios, said it presented a deal that offered historic pay and residual increases, substantially higher caps on pension and health contributions, audition protections, shortened series option periods, and a groundbreaking AI proposal that projects actors' digital likenesses.
That is all the legalese or press release from the AMPTP.
Yeah, that's what they want you to think they did.
Yes.
I mean, they may have done that, but it wasn't good enough because, yes, it pinned the blame for the work stoppage on SAG-AFTRA. SAG-AFTRA, meanwhile, President Fran Drescher, yes, the nanny herself, said that the two sides remain far apart on so many things. She said studios pled poverty and criticized bloated payouts to top executives. On the artificial intelligence proposal by studios, he denounced the offer for paying background performers for 1 day of work in exchange for the rights to their digital likeness, quote, for the rest of eternity with no compensation. Drescher said that if we don't stand tall now, we are all going to be in trouble. We are all going to be in jeopardy of being replaced by machines. So,
and that was the big thing that came out this week, or this past week, was the background actors being digitally recorded in order to be used for further productions. Basically $200 from 1 day of work, but you could see your background self in multiple scenes for multiple days, for multiple shoots, but you only get paid for the one time.
A lot of people were very quick to point out this is literally was a gag on BoJack Horseman. Literally, like where like he's shooting something and they're like, okay, we need you to come over here and be in this truck for a while, and he's like, what? It's like, no, we need to digitize you so we can use you forever and not have to pay you in case you die. It's just like, oh my god. So yeah, of course they're evil. We'll talk about how evil they are a little later in the show. But yeah, it's just, of course this is going to happen, and I'm glad that they committed to the strike. This shuts down all productions. Just if anything was in the middle that involved using SAG or AFTRA members, it's just done. They have to wait.
Not just in Hollywood, but all around the world. Anyone we'll talk about who's a part of that.
Right. We'll talk about this later. Yeah. But I was gonna say also, you can't that means actors in the SAG-AFTRA cannot appear at premieres. They can't do any promotion, so they couldn't be at Comic-Con, for example. They can't be on the red carpet for a premiere for a film.
They can't even be on social media promoting works that they've been a part of.
They can't promote anything. So there are things they can do. So in television, there is certain programming that is part of the television code. And that means that those are things that are outside of SAG-AFTRA guidelines. That includes soap operas. Soap opera production does not stop. Game shows. Celebrities can still show up on game shows.
Mm-hmm.
Variety programs. So late night shows, even though they're shut down for the writer's strike.
Yep.
If in theory they weren't, they could still go on it. They just can't talk about their film. They would just go on and basically talk to Seth Meyers about whatever the hell they want. Mm-hmm. So that is totally okay. They can still do radio appearances, again, in a non-promotional way. And yeah, they can just be on social media and all that stuff for other reasons. They just obviously can't promote any films or television shows that they're involved in. So last thing I want to mention about the strike that's super important. So a lot of people have been talking about like, oh, well, I'm going to boycott Oppenheimer and Barbie because I want to support the actors and the writers. They've made it very clear. SAG-AFTRA is not calling for a boycott. In fact, they actually still want consumers to go see movies, still watch television shows on streamers, because that gives them ammunition in talks, because the popularity of their programs is just good for them as it is for the streamers. And so, no, they are not in any way calling for a boycott. Just so before you go and start to try to vote for with your wallet, don't worry about it. You're good.
It's unfortunate that this has to happen, but we're going to put the blame where the blame should be placed.
Yes. The studios are being ridiculous with these contract negotiations. They need to come back to the table with a better deal, or else this is just going to be how we live from now on, just watching repeats and game shows.
And if you don't believe us now, you'll believe us in about 30 minutes.
Yes.
When we get there. Just wait.
All right. So that's that story. Next, though, thankfully, there is some TV that we're catching up on and you're watching. So let's talk about those shows.
So I put a bunch of stuff on here. Did you watch any of this?
I watched exactly one episode, the first episode of season 2 of The After Party.
Yay. You watched Anik 2.
Yes.
The sequel.
All right. So let's talk about The After Party first then.
Yes.
I'm very curious to get your thoughts about this one. Was our favorite show of that year. It kind of saved us from pandemic blues in the beginning of 2021. It was a nice breath of fresh air from two of our favorites, of course, Lord and Miller. Yep. And yeah, we really had a good time with that first season. It's back. Some of the same cast returns, but the majority are a new ensemble. What did you think about the new After Party?
I like the idea of taking the After Party from a high school reunion, which was the plot of the first one, to an after party of a wedding, which is the theme for this one. And after the first episode, and especially after the second episode, I think I know what happened.
Already? Wow.
Yes. That's just because there's no such thing as new media.
Everything is borrowed. What's the quote that like all artists borrow, but the best artists steal, or something like that?
Something like that. You only steal the best parts, everything is borrowed.
Yeah.
So without spoiling too much, I'm gonna say that this season takes heavy inspiration from the Agatha Christie novel and film Death on the Nile. But that's also because that was also a wedding party gone awry.
Sure.
And seeing kind of some of the similar key players from that book into this season, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they took a lot of their inspiration from.
Okay.
Not saying that's exactly how the murder is going to play out, but that's where my inkling is first going here.
Okay.
Other than that, the actual production is really great. The second episode is a period piece. It's really hilarious at being a period piece when you have a helicopter appear in one scene.
Right.
Because everyone's acting in a very period piece dramatic fashion. And then like, oh, by the way, we still have modern technology. Let me look at my smartwatch. But it's fun. It's interesting. I think there's definitely something going on between the groom and the lizard, the gecko, but we'll see when that happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
I have inklings of what that could be. But so far, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first two episodes. It does come every Wednesday. Probably the next one's going to be more of a film noir, Venetia blinds everywhere,
Oh, interesting.
a little bit of black and white mystery.
Okay, all right. So I've only watched the first episode, and I feel like I need to just get a couple more under my belt because I was not really feeling the vibe of episode one. I think that it kind of felt like it was moving in fits and starts for the first like 30 minutes, where I was like, all right, okay, do we really need to go back and forth between the genre premise and the and what's happening in this conversation between Anik and the agent? Like, do we really need to do this?
Tiffany Haddish.
Yeah, Tiffany Haddish's character, and I don't remember her character's name. And then we move into once it moved into the like just okay, now we're just doing the genre parody. I was okay, but like, and yeah, the mystery seemed immediately more complicated, I think, than the mystery from the first season. Like you immediately, it wasn't so much as the first season was neat because that first episode was like, oh, here's just a series of things that happen, and all of them are going to matter, but you don't know that. You don't know they're going to matter. And that made the ensuing episodes better because then you were like, oh, I didn't know that mattered, that thing I saw. And maybe it's because this is the second time they're doing it. The whole time I was like, oh, well, it's obvious that that's going to matter. Oh, it's obvious that this is going to be matter in somebody else's perspective. I kept catching myself being like, seeing through the artifice and seeing into the bones of what they do on the after party, and it kind of affected my enjoyment of it. And like in season one I was able to just be like, let it wash over me. Here I was thinking too much about the mechanics.
Yeah, that first episode is very much boilerplate. Here, I'm going to set up all your main characters and main players because you know Anik didn't do it. Whereas the first season, that's what the initial setup is. Anik woke up, had this went upstairs, screamed, and then that's when everyone realized that Franco was dead. Dave Franco was dead.
Yeah.
Xavier X.
Xavier. But the other thing that is that I feel like just on a base level, the high school reunion angle is just more interesting to me. Like the wedding angle is interesting, and like I said, as the series goes on and there's more stories and more angles of the scenario, maybe it'll be more interesting as it goes on, and I'm hoping that it does. But I feel like the high school reunion stuff grabbed me immediately. This did not, and so it was lacking a little bit of that for me.
Is that because the first season was more of like friends seeing each other after 10 years, and this is more of a family drama?
Yeah, it's less interesting to me. It feels like they're trying to do like a more like Succession style kind of approach, and I'm just like, this is not necessarily for me. It's not as relatable. Also, maybe that's potentially what it's going on, but yeah, like I said, I'm willing to give it a try because I like what these guys do, and I like the premise of the show, and I love that they're trying something different with it as opposed to just doing the same thing again. I wouldn't want them to do that either, but like, I'm gonna give it time to grow on me because that first episode just didn't get its hooks in right away.
Yeah, but that was also part of the fun of the after party is the different genres.
Yeah.
From the multiple episodes.
Yeah, and the rom-com stuff was fun. The rom-com stuff in episode one was fun in a lot of cases. If at times a little like, all right, yeah, of course you have to do this.
Yes.
Oh God, it was so it's cringe-inducing watching Anik through that whole episode.
Yes.
Like, let's move off of him for a little bit.
Like I said, that first episode is your ground. It's your basis. We know that he didn't do this, so let's get him out of the way and set up everything else.
But yeah, looking forward to continuing on it.
Okay. So that is on Apple TV Plus. First two episodes are up right now. Weekly episodes every Wednesday. So let's go to Netflix then.
Let's.
So last week talked about two different shows coming back, or one show starting, one show coming back. Too Hot to Handle. It's back. It's trashy. It's fun. It is summer fun of trash. Once again, I feel like this show is very both in the zeitgeist and yet can also just be binged at the very end.
Yes, as you love to call it, Sexless Island.
Sexless Island, yes.
Yes.
Too hot to handle. You come in here, and once again, they were able to dupe all these beautiful people into going to an island,
Always.
and you can't touch each other. But what do? They break the rules. It's like, come on.
Of course they do.
Well, yes, we've seen this for 5 seasons. We for 4 seasons already. We know what to expect, and yet they do it anyways, and it's always so satisfying just seeing like, okay, so you're just gonna be the asshole villain of this series. Okay, I get it.
It's a reality show staple. Every reality show has one of those. It's like the people who go on The Bachelorette to just complain about, well, I'm just appalled that she's like kissed somebody right after she kissed me. I'm like, dude, you're on The Bachelorette. What'd you think was going to happen?
Oh, did you see the Golden Bachelor?
Yes, they're doing a seniors bachelor.
Yes,
yes, very excited.
I think they said it was 74 years old.
Yeah, I think we talked about it last week.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Ugh.
That's gonna be fun.
I think seniors is like 50s and 60s. No, they're going
no. Seniors. They're really going for it.
Yep. But anyways, Too Hot to Handle season 5, it's back. If you've never watched Too Hot to Handle, you got 4 seasons to binge on. They're there. They're on Netflix. Enjoy to your trashy heart content.
Yeah, something like that.
Other
but
show
you
that
also watched.
Yes. Getting ready for football season. Getting ready by looking back at the past season in the quarterback position as Netflix newest sports documentary, Quarterback.
The creatively titled Quarterback.
Yes. Follows 3 quarterbacks in the NFL.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me that the show called Quarterback actually follows 3 quarterbacks?
Yes, not just 1, 3 of them. Although you'd think with a name like Quarterback, you'd follow 4 quarterbacks.
That's like those places that just have burrito on the outside, and you're like, well, there's more than one burrito in there. I know, because it's not like I'm gonna miss when they sell that one burrito. Like, I came here to watch one quarterback.
Oh, are you missing the S in the title?
Yeah, it's just called Quarterbacks.
Oh, see, I thought you were talking about like how they follow 3 and not 4, because quarterbacks.
Embarrassing.
On the nose. It's right there.
Follow
4. It's right there in the name. Quarterback.
Add my own S. I'm adding my own S to the Chiron.
All right. Anyways, Quarterback follows 3 aptly titled named positions of Marcus Mariota.
Okay.
Captain Kirk Cousins. And Super Bowl MVP winner and Tom Brady's son, Patrick Mahomes.
Yes. Don't look at me. You've got a girl, Mahomes.
Yep. Take your Mahomies out of here.
Yeah.
Me and my Mahomies. Number 1 NFL or fantasy football quarterback off the boards in the first round, second round, if you're lucky. Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So follows those 3. I really liked the first episode because it showed everything preseason leading up to the start, like their home life, like how they are away from the field. There wasn't a whole lot of like, here I am on the field taking hit after hit, throwing the ball, making passes, making decisions. It's here I am with the day-to-day grind. Here I am being a family man. Here I am trying to get my body in shape. Here's what I do that you don't see in the day-to-day Sunday I'll say Sunday episodes, in the Sunday games that they play. That first episode is everything they do behind the scenes. But then, because Netflix made a deal with the NFL to show NFL films and gameplay highlights in the episodes, that's what they decided to do. And that's where they kind of lean into the next following episodes, where they break it up into chunks of the season, into the different quarters on a 4-week basis, and show how each quarterback does in every game throughout the season. but I'm like, I already know how this is going to play out. I already watched this. This is nothing new to me. It's not like watching Breakpoint where I don't really follow tennis. So this is me watching it for the first time.
Right.
This is me knowing what's going to happen already. What's going to happen with the dramatic points. Like there's one point where the Vikings and Kirk Cousins had a dramatic comeback and they play up the tension in the game. But I'm sitting there like, but I already know what happens. Like, yeah, you're gonna play like he's playing down, but I know they're gonna come back and win the game on NFL bullshit. And
Yeah.
sure enough, like they play it up in case you hadn't watched the game or you hadn't watched highlights of it or
Right.
red zone.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a really interesting comparison you could make here with Hard Knocks, because Hard Knocks happens at some point in the series in real time, roughly, because you're able to see things, them prepping for things that have not happened yet, and then you get to see them react to things that did happen. And so it seems like maybe what you're missing from this is that tension that something like Hard Knocks offers.
Yeah, that's the good thing about Hard Knocks is that
Yeah.
each production is on a weekly basis. They
Right.
film throughout the entire week of training camp leading up to the exhibition preseason game and then decide after the game where they show the highlights like, okay, here's what this person did. Like, we like what this person did. We like let this person did. We're going to let this person go because of the game. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a good thing about Hard Knocks is that it's actually like 2 days after them playing or 3 days after them playing that you see the result. This is a whole year essentially after them playing. And they did drop all 8 episodes on Netflix, so you can binge watch them. You don't have to watch them on a weekly basis. But at the same time, because we know what happens, and you do have one of these quarterbacks winning the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
it will show you all that progress. It's just by the time you get to the end, how much Patrick Mahomes video can you take? Because he's the only one who goes all the way.
Right. Yeah.
Because at some point, it's going to stop showing Kirk Cousins and Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. Unless they're going to show them like at home, like
Oh no, they do. They
hanging
show the
out.
home life, and they kind of like they try and like pin each episode around one certain thing. Like one episode was around the theme of homecoming and how each different player had a different type of homecoming for a
Yeah.
week. Where like Patrick Mahomes went to his college because they were playing in the area, so he went to his college at Texas Tech
That's fun.
for a weekend, and then Marcus Mariota because they were on the West Coast and then playing Seattle that they practiced in Washington, and that's his homecoming for his college, even though he played at Oregon and there were rivals to Washington, but they kind of loosely based on it. And then like Kirk Cousins, his homecoming was playing back at FedEx Field where he was playing against the Commanders for the first time and first time playing in that stadium since being traded to the Vikings. So it's interesting and kind of cool how they weave those kind of like plot points in and tie them all as like they're like doing kind of the same things, just in different aspects of it. And I think that's really cool. But that's about the extent of it being a cool, interesting fact.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's just a different thing. I don't want to say it's doing the same thing as Hard Knocks, but I feel like there's so much crossover there that, like, yeah, like I just feel like it's a more interesting idea to have it in process in progress, I think. And so, yeah, because if you already know, you already know. But do you think there's anything here really for people who are not into football?
There's a lot of post-game interviews and it feels like post-month interviews where they're showing them like, hey, like we're going to talk about this week. Like we're talking about week 2. Here we are 2 weeks post-season. So you can talk about like what your mindset was and like how you kind of felt throughout the game, giving you so we can put that voiceover to the game footage.
Yeah.
Instead of it being like a fresh, like we're gonna interview after like we're gonna interview you 2 days after the game, so we get it fresh what you're thinking. It does feel like there is a very distant relationship between what's happening in the game that they show and the interview that they're giving for it.
Yeah, which is just the reality of how long it takes to make a documentary series like this.
Yes. It also does feel like at some point they got tired in the editing process of how much training and ice baths and like studying can we show and get bored of, and how quickly can we get back to the NFL highlights that we are paying for to show. Because
Right.
we're paying the NFL to show these highlights, and we want to make sure we show the highlights from the NFL.
Yeah. Well, so there you go. That's quarterback.
Yep.
All right. What else do we got?
Lastly, on Netflix, a new anime called Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead.
I'm glad you said this was an anime because when I saw it on the list, I thought this was in the same lineage as what was that body 100
Bodies.
or something 100.
Oh,
Were
Physical 100.
Yeah, physical 100. What was the other one that was 100? That was also like a reality competition.
There was the 100 on the CW.
No, never mind. Anyways, okay, I was probably just thinking of
Physical 100.
physical 100. I thought this was like that, except with zombies.
Oh, because it said Bucket List of the Dead.
So no, this is an anime, you say?
Yes, it's an anime on Netflix called Zom 100. Basic premise is a 20-something works at a job in Japan, and he is dead tired that he himself starts acting like a zombie, being only able to go into the office and work, go home, sleep, very little time to eating, people bragging about like how much overtime they're working, how much they devote their life to the company, and he just feels like a zombie, and he feels like everyone around him is a zombie.
Mm-hmm.
Until the actual zombie outbreak happens, and he feels like, wait, there's an actual zombie outbreak. My boss turned into a zombie. I don't have to go to work anymore. Screw going to work. I am finally going to live my life. So he grabs a notebook and a pen and writes out 100 things that he wishes to do before basically dying to a zombie apocalypse.
Sure. Okay.
That's the basic premise of Zom 100, is that he's making a bucket list of items that he wants to do in the middle of a zombie apocalypse.
Bucket list animation is having quite a renaissance right now.
What's the other one?
Haley's on it.
Oh, Haley's on it. That's not really a bucket list. That's
it's the form and function of a bucket list.
She's just not dying. Yes. I mean, she's trying to save the world, but yeah. So he creates a list, and that's kind of where it takes off from there, is him just doing random stuff that just to like, hey, live a little while everyone else from you is literally dying.
Right.
But yeah, that's the basic premise. It's on Netflix. The first 2 episodes are up. It's kind of funny. It's quirky. It's got some really, really colorful animation. I don't know if that's because they don't want to show like actual blood, but they use a lot of color stylized blood and interesting zombie techniques. But more or less, that's what you're getting. So if you like zombies, you like lists, and you like bucket lists, Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead.
All right. Well, there you go. And then lastly,
oh boy.
Okay. All right. He's taking a sip to prepare to talk about this business. I remember when we first started this podcast, and I remember I feel like way back when you talked on this show about Project Greenlight.
Yeah, I feel like it was also earlier this year, that we talked about how Project Greenlight was going to make a comeback.
Yeah.
With Issa Rae as one of the executive producers. Well, she's here alongside Kumail Nanjiani as one of the producers / mentor for Project Greenlight. And this past week, they had a dual premiere. Both Project Greenlight and the movie Gray Matter premiered on HBO Max. So you can watch the movie and then Project Greenlight, or Project Greenlight and then the movie.
Uh-huh.
Guess which one I did?
You watched Project Greenlight first?
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. Of course you did.
Of course
you want to see how the
sausage gets made.
Yeah, the sausage gets made. I was gonna say like the muffin gets made or something. I was like, couldn't think of the metaphor. But yes, you want to see how it happened.
Yes. So all 10 episodes are up on HBO Max. You can watch the entire production of Project Greenlight and how it goes from script to choosing a director, to editing said script, getting production, choosing actors, studio interference on which actor do you want to use,
Of course.
because HBO Max,
Mhm.
and like all the whole process of to get to an actual film, which is Grey Matter, and it is available on HBO Max for you to watch.
Okay.
I wish they would have chosen someone better for a director.
Oh no.
I wish they would have chosen someone more outgoing, someone with more of an idea, someone with more of a plan, someone more boisterous than the person who shot it really, really well.
Okay. Huh. Interesting.
Because that's what they went for. They went with the auteur who had the more artistic eye, and
Hmm.
not the person who had the pinpoint ideas of exactly what they wanted to do. Also, for the first time in Project Greenlight's history, they chose a women director,
Okay.
a woman of color director for the first
Okay.
time ever.
All
That
right.
was part of Issa Rae's, I don't want to say mandate, but part of it was we want to give a shot, a $5 million budget movie to someone like that,
Yeah.
because it's not very common in the film industry.
Right.
So, and that's what Project Greenlight is. It's about giving someone their shot at being a director.
Yeah.
And in the 4 years that Project Greenlight has existed, it's always gone to a white man. So it's cool to see that take, but it's also kind of wish they chose one of the other people who was more outgoing, was more assertive, especially in what they've showed in their interview process, rather than the person who had a really, really good demo reel and a really, really good scene. Like the
Mhm.
directing choices of the one scene that they all had to shoot was really well done. But in the interview process that followed, they didn't have kind of like the voice or the power behind them, but they still chose them anyways.
Yeah, I think what you're getting at is that there's like, I guess it depends on who you are, whether what traits you believe a great director needs to
Mm-hmm.
have. Like, yeah, an eye for detail, a artistic um feel for, the vibe of a scene and how to best approach it visually. That's important, but what you're arguing is it's beyond that. Being a director is not just what's on screen, it's also a job where you have to be interpersonal. You have to interact with your cast, your writers, your everybody. You
The
are the center of the universe. You are the sun, and they all orbit around you, and they have to you have to be able to talk to them about
yes,
what you want. You have to be a good communicator as
you
much as
have
you
to
are a
be
good eye.
able you have to be able to communicate your vision. You have to be able to communicate what is wrong with a
Yeah.
script.
Do you think this person maybe has a future as a cinematographer?
Yes, well, they've done cinematography and they've shot music videos,
That makes sense.
mostly
That makes
with like
sense.
Doja Cat, more
Okay.
recently. Um, so they have experience like directing people or
Mm-hmm.
directing actors, but music videos where you can pretty much go off script as much as you want,
Right.
to sticking to a script of a film saying we want you to use this script, which I also think is a problem with this, is that
Mm.
the director did not come with a script and even any of the script notes, that they read it, they reviewed it, but they didn't add any of their own kind of spin to it.
Well, is Project Greenlight a different show if they start doing no, bring us fully fleshed out scripts that you want to also direct?
No, but it is interesting when a person comes in saying that they are a writer director and
Yeah.
then cannot punch up a script to make it better.
Right. That's the thing is I feel like it adds a layer of complexity to the concept then.
Mhm.
And the show becomes something else. I
Right.
would
No, it's
worry.
saying, hey, we like this script. We want to greenlight
Yeah.
the script. We need to find a director for the script.
Yeah. That
That makes
makes more sense.
sense. Yeah.
So they went with somebody who could follow that premise, you could
Yes.
say.
But they also like should be able to inject their own ideas and be able to find out and fix a script, especially if they
Yeah.
promote themselves as a writer director,
Okay.
and not spend 2 weeks reviewing a script and come back with minimal changes of like a couple lines of dialogue and not like full on, I want to change this scene here because it'll impact this later scene. Or if we want to make this future scene, the third act, more impactful, you need to add this scene here in the first act.
Yeah, I mean, it's a collaborative process, and it goes back to that communication. It goes back to willing to collaborate with your writer or other people involved in the production.
And that's a great thing about Project Greenlight, is that it shows all that, both the willingness to collaborate and the unwillingness to collaborate and wanting to stick to your vision.
Right.
Which brings us to the actual film, Gray Matter. Like
Yeah.
I said, available on HBO Max now. It is short. It is just over 80 minutes.
Okay.
It's very short. It doesn't even hit the 90-minute mark. It is also a very small movie. It's a very personal movie too. It's a mother-daughter relationship who have psychic powers because they specifically wanted to do a superhero trope film without stepping into the superhero like genre.
Right.
So it's a mother-daughter relationship who have psychic powers, and the daughter gets kidnapped by another person with psychic powers, and is held against their will at an institution. It's up to the mom to break out and for the daughter to fulfill her powers within her.
Okay.
That's your basic premise for Gray Matter. And while it is definitely shot great, I definitely like the cinematography. I definitely like the colors and the light work in it. I do think a lot of the problems in it stem from the script and not being able to find that balance between a mother-daughter relationship and a coming-of-age story. And there's also a lot of issues with establishing the rules of your universe, especially doing it very early on, and especially when you're dealing with psychic powers. Like, what is the limit of the psychic powers, and what is the maximum? What's the basic of the psychic powers? What's the maximum? What's your drawbacks, and how do they access it?
Okay.
If it's just a muscle exercise, how do you show that? And I feel that kind of not a montage, but that kind of training sequence, while it is there, is very minimal and doesn't show the overall growth of the main character. And I think that's something that could have been played out better. And something that they could have cut out was a dreamlike sequence where like things happen in the mind. So it's not nothing that can physically harm you, but at the same time, it's meant to show like all the chaos that's going on within the 15-year-old.
Okay.
But also like how she sees the dynamic between her and her mom. That if you're going to have that, have it be better. Have it be better portrayed. Then here I am with my own notes.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna note the noteless.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing about Project Greenlight, right? Is it's like it's not ever going to be a perfect incubator for a movie. It's by definition always going to be a flawed thing that you're putting out into the world because you've created it via reality show.
Right. That's actually one of the other things too, is that the reality camera crew kept butting heads with the film crew for Gray Matter.
Yeah. That it's never gonna be ideal. And so like all you can hope for is that like the idea came together enough where the movie was watchable. So little wins matter.
Yeah, there's definitely ideas there. There's definitely, like I said, it's definitely shot really good. There's definitely a good eye there. There are definitely scenes that showcase like this is a good directing choices, good directing action. But the overall story, especially when you're dealing with psychic powers, can easily get away from you if you're not able to contain it.
It's tricky. It's a tricky line to walk. But all right, so there you go. So you can watch either the movie or the Project Greenlight process of the movie on on Max. I almost said HBO Max.
I think I say HBO Max a couple times there.
It's like writing the wrong date on a check. Let's move on.
I think this is more like writing your ex's name on a birthday card.
Embarrassing.
That's why you name her the same.
What?
Yeah, you get the same
No,
girl.
no.
Yes, you
All
get the
right.
same name. That way you don't
Same
make the
name.
mistake.
Anyways, let's move on. That's it for television. That's it. We're canceling everything. It's all done. No, that's it for what we've been watching on television. Let's move on to cancellations and renewals,
All right,
shall
what am I
we?
no longer watching?
You're no longer watching the show called Sky High, as it has been canceled on Netflix, not to be confused with the Disney film with the same name.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you will continue to watch is HBO is renewed We Are Here for a fourth season. They're still here. And Netflix is bringing Back to 15 for a third season. So there you go. We have one death to talk about real quick here. Daniel Goldberg, age 74, producer and screenwriter, worked on The Hangover, Stripes, and Space Jam, among others.
He was the screenwriter for Stripes and then a producer for Hangover and Space Jam.
There you go. That makes sense between Stripes and Space Jam, the Bill Murray connection.
Yep. So he was
right
the
there.
producer that had the Teamster give him a ride to the game.
Okay, there you go. All right. Let's move on into movies, and we always start the movie section with the weekend box office numbers.
All right. How did Tom Cruise do?
He's still on top, believe it or not, with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 making another $54 million. So that's at $78 million.
That is, it's 58 in its first weekend, 78 because it opened on Wednesday.
And I did read that globally it has already broken even.
Yep, because Tom Cruise doesn't play to the home audience anymore.
No, he's an international superstar.
And when Mission Impossible has international locations,
that's on purpose, baby.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
that's not Adam Sandler going on taking a vacation there. No, he's there to work.
Right.
And run through the city. Yeah. Running.
Kevin James, you're not invited. All right. Number 2, Sound of Freedom, $27 million. At number 2, $85 million so far domestic for that one. Number 3, Insidious, The Red Door, $13 million this week. That's at 58. Number 4, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny with another $12 million. That's at 145. Still far away from making any money. And number 5, Elemental, $9 million this week with 125. I feel like it crept back up to where it needs to be. I think that it ended up being
going.
Okay.
I feel like they're purposely holding it off on Disney Plus until it drops out of the top 5, which will be this upcoming weekend.
Well, yeah, I saw a thing that was like, it's been uploaded to the Disney Plus servers. I'm like, what does that even mean, guys? If I can't watch it, what's the point of this headline?
It means it's coming next month. That's all it means.
Yeah, that's all it means to us. All right, so that's the weekend box office upcoming this week. Do I even need to tell you? It's all anybody's been able to talk about for the last 6 months. Are you kidding me? You're either going to
finally here.
You're either going to see Barbie, or you're either going to see Oppenheimer, or you're going to see a double feature of Barbie and then Barbie. I'm sorry, there are no other options.
Barbenheimer weekend is upon us.
I kid, yes, of course. You can see both of them if you want. Oh, and also, technically, that Haunted Mansion is out.
Yeah, and I want to say that. Wait, is that this week or is that next week?
You have it written as 720 here.
Oh, that might be
a typo. Okay,
yeah, that's probably next week.
Never mind, that's next week. So don't worry about Haunted Mansion.
Yes.
Just focus in on those Barbie tickets those Oppenheimer tickets that you've been trying so hard to get.
Yes, those 70 millimeter print IMAX tickets. Only in like 30 cities in the US.
I guess you can see them both in the same day. I wouldn't recommend it, but I guess you can if you really want to.
Just tonal whiplash.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we will not be able to talk about these films next week.
Depending on when we record.
Yeah, depending on when we record. So we will get back to you next week if we do suddenly have thoughts about Barbie or Oppenheimer. We will let you know. In the meantime, those are your new releases.
In the meantime, speaking of Oppenheimer, they had a premiere.
We have breaking Oppenheimer news. Well, not really breaking. This happened a few days ago. But yes, the London red carpet, that is, for Christopher Nolan's atomic bomb thriller, kicked off just before 5 p.m. local time on the day of the premiere. It was even pushed up an hour to allow the cast to attend the event because, I don't know if you know this, there were some things happening in the background. Christopher Nolan confirmed before the beginning of the screening that the cast had left in solidarity with the SAG-AFTRA strike. The cast was expected to attend screenings of the film following the red carpet, but instead left the event once the strike was made official at exactly 8 p.m. local time. According to the guidelines, SAG-AFTRA members will not be able to attend premieres, do interviews for completed work, go to award shows, attend film festivals, or even promote projects on social media while the strike is in effect. They are also not allowed to attend conventions such as Comic-Con or 90s Con, which I just learned existed, to promote any past or present work made under a SAG-AFTRA contract. We already talked about all of that, but basically, this just gives you a visual of this in action.
Mm-hmm. A live minute-by-minute action of, hey, we're here, we're promoting it, we're still under SAG-AFTRA,
and
then right at 8 p.m., they called for the strike. They said we did not make a deal. So 8 p.m. local time was 12 o'clock midnight, I want to say. Or was it p.m. local time?
I don't know where this occurred, so I don't know.
Well, it's London, which is 00. So 8 plus 8 minus 8. I don't know. I forget which way that way goes. Math.
Too much math.
But yeah, 8-hour difference. So when they called for a strike, it made it official. They could not attend the premiere any longer. I think that would be 12 a.m., 12 p.m. That's p.m. Yeah, so 12 p.m. noon would be the day. So West Coast time.
There you go.
Plus minus 8 hours.
You figured it out. You did the math.
I got there.
But
yeah, so this is what it's going to look like, though.
Yeah. Well, is it? So I wanted to mention this. You don't have this here, but I wanted to mention this in case you were wondering what a movie premiere would look like when the strike is in effect. Boy, howdy, do I have news for you. The Disney premiere of Haunted Mansion was interesting this week, as Disney, since they can't send the stars of the film, sent costumed characters of their lovely IP to the red carpet instead. So we had Mickey and Minnie walking the red carpet instead of the actual stars. So there's Disney's at least creative solution to the problem. And
sending ghosts down the line.
Yes, it fits for Haunted Mansion when you really think about it.
Yeah.
So that's a little preview for what you should expect going forward.
Right. Like producers and studios execs can still walk the carpet, they can still talk about it, but you won't get actors, and you still won't get any writers on it.
No, and you won't want to see those studio heads because, oh boy, they don't like you. Let's talk about it. So, while the actors are getting all the headlines this week, the writer's strike is still in effect, and this actually occurred before the actors' strike was finalized. The studios have been talking some mad shit. The APTP released a statement, quote, "The studios have no intention of sitting down with the Writers Guild for several more months," unquote. Warner Brothers Discovery, Apple, Netflix, Amazon, Disney, Paramount, and the others, and the rest.
And the rest.
Yeah, exactly. Have become determined to, quote, "break the WGA," as one studio exec so charmingly put it. The APTP, it's an awful acronym and I hate saying it, believes that by October, most writers will be, quote, "running out of money after 5 months on the picket lines and no work." The end game is to allow things to drag on until union members start losing their apartments and losing their houses, one studio executive told Deadline. Off the record, of course, because he doesn't want somebody, I don't know, burning down his mansion. Acknowledging the cold as ice approach, several other sources reiterated the statement. One insider called it a cruel but necessary evil. This is who they're dealing with, people. This is the kind of person, this the kind of person that we're facing, and it's why the industry is the way it is because there's this fundamental disconnect between the company's bottom line, what the shareholders want, and the day-to-day daily lives of the people who are actually doing the labor part of the business. It's just There is nothing in between those two things for these execs. They only see this. They only see this little square that they live in, and they don't see anything. They just see those little ants down there. They're like a plane, and they're seeing like the ants on the ground, and they're just seeing them as little ants that they could squish if they want. It's like, oh, there's too many ants down there. I'm going to squish them. Oh, those ants aren't going the way that I want them to go. I'm just going to put this piece of food over here and direct the ant line this way. Not knowing that those ants down there are struggling every single second to try to get that food. It's a bad metaphor, I know, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to say is that they're so disconnected from what a daily, like what an actual person with a, let's be real, if they're a writer, like a average income job like does. Like if you're writing for like,
or even a below average income, because these are contract based.
Right.
And if you're not writing for a hit show or one of the big shows, I mean, we just went through Emmy nominations, and there's hundreds upon thousands of shows across multiple streamers that get released every year, and only a handful make it to Emmys to be nominated.
Yeah.
But you still need writers on everything else.
Yeah, it's just like, here's another example. I saw this week that apparently one of the studios, and I wish I could remember which one it was, they literally trimmed the trees outside of the business this week because that's where the picket lines were forming. So that way now they'll be lined up and they have no shade.
Yep.
It's just embarrassing villain level shit that these guys are doing. And it's just like, come on.
They're doing everything they can to break the writer spirit and essentially to break the union.
But it's not going to work. We know that because like it's not like they can't do anything. Like there's other things they can do. I don't know. It's just embarrassing and it's ridiculous. And I hope eventually they figure this shit out, because this can't last forever. And they are going to have, I don't know what the hell the studios are going to do all of a sudden when they run out of reality show possibilities, or if people just stop watching reality shows.
Well, as you mentioned, they can still create game shows as much as they want.
Oh yeah, they can, but they're diminishing returns, folks. Diminishing returns.
Wipeout 3.0.
Oh god, no.
American Gladiators 5.1.
Oh boy. Anyway, so look forward to that. And that
Gordon Ramsay in your home.
Oh god, where? He's here? Oh no. Don't yell at me, please, Gordon. All right, that's it. That's it for movie news. That's it for this podcast.
Yeah, like I said, the movie I watched was Gray Matter, but I talked about it in TV.
About it.
But yeah, I may or may not get to Oppenheimer on Thursday for the premiere. Waiting on pins and needles for other stuff to happen.
Yeah. So watch this space
for other stuff to happen.
Right. Watch this space for Oppenheimer or Oppenheimer.
It's Barbenheimer. Come on.
Barben. Hate it. All right. I'm just done. I'm done with all this. I need it to be over now. Please be over. 2 more weeks.
One more week.
2 more weeks. 2 more weeks. It'll be at least another week of people talking about them.
Yes. So and then football season. Football.
Anyway, all right. Thank you for joining us on this podcast, the Media Boat Podcast, in case you're wondering what podcast I'm talking about. We'll be back next week for another episode. If you want to see it in video form, check out our YouTube channel. We're youtube.com/no, we're not. youtube.com and search Media Boat, and you'll find our channel. Like, subscribe, leave us a message, whatever you want to do with it. I don't know. Click the bell for notifications when and if we ever go live again. You can also find us in audio form on podcast services like Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, you name it, we got it. You just search Media Boat Podcast on any of those things and you'll find us, probably. We're also on the IMDb, not us, but if you, I think we talked about this before, but yeah, our podcast is on IMDb.
It is?
Yeah. Yeah. I sent this to Christy yesterday. The Media Boat Podcast is available to search on IMDb, and you can find a list of episodes. There's no other information. No information about who's in it. No information about what's discussed in the show. Just the episode titles. Each have their own webpage.
Well, they got the year right since 2016.
Yes,
Episode guide 451.
Isn't that fun?
Do we have to subscribe to IMDb Pro to fill out everything?
I don't know. You should look that up. You should find that
I
out.
don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that either. So you should find that out. All right. Anyway.
Release date January 2nd, 2016. It's got the date right, even.
It's got the date right.
What is this?
So that's a fun fact for you. I thought you knew this already. I thought we talked about it. Maybe
I didn't create the page.
Maybe I was listening to a podcast where they also had this moment where they found out they were on IMDb.
And then you looked us up.
Yeah, so maybe. Yeah, but we're on IMDb. We're famous now, except our names aren't there.
Well, I can contribute to this page and help fill gaps in their data.
There you go. You can do that. Then you have fun with that. Anyways, in the meantime, so you can find us on all the stuff, and yeah, you can ask us questions, give us comments, feedback about the show, anything you want to do. mediabopodcast@gmail.com is that email address, and if you ask us a question, we'll read it live on this show, so do that. All right. Oh, and twitch.tv/mediaboat is where you can watch us stream some things. I'm sure Mike will be wrapping up Final Fantasy 16 on stream very soon.
At some point, yes. Assuming I don't get sidetracked and do all the side quests to do everything before the final boss, because I want that Ultima weapon.
Don't we all? And then Thursday, if the servers aren't smashed, maybe I'll stream some Diablo 4 for season 1. I'll roll a new character and see how that works out for me. In the meantime, thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next time. See y'all. Have a good week.
We'll be back next week with more news, more thoughts, maybe Oppenheimer, maybe Barbie. We don't know.
Who can say?
We'll see. But at least it'll be more of us.
Yep.
Okay, bye.